David didn't justify it. He didn't try and hide it. The thing that kept him in God's good graces is that he fell to his knees and sackcloth and ashes and repented. He understood what he had done. And, his famous line, I've sinned against you and you alone. He understood kind of, he let God see, he let God see all of what he had done. Because as you say, and as we know, God sees it anyway. So why not let that in? And that's when he could, move on. And that beautiful passage is so powerful even today because it's a great example for us that when we do stumble, which we do, when we do sin, which we do, it is, constant renewal to go back and ask forgiveness and apologize and recognize your shortcomings.
Yes. Amen. Amen. Well said, Coco. And, Coco, we're up against one of the toughest times. I know that this has been one of the toughest years of my life, and we're all up against this right now. COVID-19, it's really put a hold on things as far as the church building and even things like, with yourself being an artist, performances. I mean, it's shut down a lot of things that was normal life. A lot of artists now, they can no longer perform in front of hundreds of people or thousands of people. And it's really changed the way people are doing things. And even in the church community, a lot of people have looked at the church building as their relationship connector to God. But I'm just curious to see, Coco, how you've been dealing with it. How have you adjusted to still make sure you have a connection with God, to still make sure you're going forward with your music career? I'm just curious how you've been fluctuating and dealing with this situation we're in with COVID-19.
Yeah, it has been. It's been really hard, and it's been a dark year. But at the same time, I'll flip it over because I have found great blessings in this year, and not in any kind of show-offy sort of way, because that's not where they've been. I don't have a huge audience for my music, so even before COVID hit, I would write a song and I would throw it up on Facebook or Instagram, so it's just me at the piano singing. Well, of course, when COVID hit, like the best musicians, the most famous musicians in the world are doing the exact same thing, right?
Right.
So everyone's sitting in their homes at their piano doing that. And the market is saturated with this amazing music as artists are doing what artists do, which is to write and sing and just put it out in front of people, right? So there's been nothing on that front in terms of growth for me, except for just writing, which has been nice. And I have to mention, I have friends in the arts who were making their living at it before and who are not now. And they need our prayers. They need our support. If you can, write a $20 check to your local professional theater or, send something to a band, do it. These folks the industry has been wiped out this year, and there's no waiting tables job that you can go to fill in the blank, or there's no tent job. So it's really very sad. I'm not in that position. I'm at home writing my music. In terms of the church, I actually think this is an incredibly exciting time for that very reason, because, we put so much faith in what ultimately turns out to be house of cards. And it's not to say that they aren't, not to say it's not good to go to church and have your community and have your building and have your kind of routine. That's all holy and sacred, and I encourage that for everyone. But it's also important to realize that you don't need any of that, that a relationship with God it can be rich and full and so sustaining. His presence and his comfort and his company, quite frankly, is sometimes so much more, we become so much more aware of it when we are not busy with the busyness of even church stuff,
Yes.
So I have enjoyed very much this time of just being with my children and reading the Word and frankly, not even doing anything sometimes except just sitting and looking at the trees and the sunset and allowing him to, shape what I'm supposed to be thinking and feeling about this particular time. And it's been lovely.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good time for a lot of people to utilize that verse in the Bible that is, be still and know that I am God, right? Because
Absolutely.
with how the earth, how everything was before COVID-19, it was just nonstop, especially when you're talking about cities like New York and New Jersey, like New Jersey City. It's nonstop. It's fast paced. There's always stuff going on, and it's move, or you're going to get, run out the way. And with this, it gave people who normally wouldn't have the opportunity to stop and be still and really focus on the Lord. It gave them that opportunity to do so. And I think that one of the things that is just inherent to human beings is we don't really grow until we hit some type of adversity. And so with the church being shut down, it forced the church body to grow and to get out of their comfort zone and to really, if they wanted that connection that they would only get on Sundays when they went, they would do it at home and they would do it with their family and they would dive into the Bible. And I know a lot of people, it really grew their relationship with God more so than if they had just gone to church.
Yes, I agree. And also, I think it's important, too, that we recognize that as a society, and even especially as a church society, perhaps, we kind of think of serving God in a big, showy way. Like, what are we going to do? Well, how can we achieve to show our Bible literacy or to show how well we know the Lord? And I certainly fall prey to that as well. But what I've learned in the past 8 months is that everything I wanted to do that was big was taken away. And what I had instead was a much simpler, smaller life. I was in a house with my 4 children, all of whom were home from school, and my kids are from 7 to 12. So they're still young and needed my hand to help them through that. And it's been in the quietness of a much, much smaller existence. The taking away of the social aspect, the taking away of going out to restaurants, all of the things that we just did, the taking away of going to church. We were there on Wednesday, and then when they were there on Sunday, and all of that gone has led me to this really peaceful pasture of time and space given to what really matters that I didn't even know, which was just hanging out with my children right now. That's where he directed me to be, and it's just been such a blessing. It's a blessing that I didn't know that I needed, frankly. But it's not big and showy. It's very small and gentle and quiet, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Yes, amen. And Coco, one thing that stood out to me when I first found you on social media and I started watching your videos, listening to your music, I really love what you're doing with your career, your music career. You have an amazing voice, and I know that our listeners and the world, they're gonna see what I see when you perform your music, when you sing. It's just such an amazing thing. And one thing that was really special for me, and it's exactly why I felt it was important to include you and reach out to you for this special Christmas episode that we're doing right now. I felt like you were the perfect person for this episode, because especially one of your videos really stood out to me because I saw someone who loved God, but I also saw someone who was very passionate also about the Christmas holiday. I could see it I could just see it in your video, the way you were describing Christmas. You were mentioning being with your family and your father putting the star on the Christmas tree. So I'm hoping right now, since it is the Christmas holiday, I'm hoping right now you could just sort of show our listeners exactly what I saw, because it was amazing hearing you describe Christmas. So if you could just give us a little bit of your Christmas background growing up. It's such an amazing story to hear.
We had amazing Christmases. It was absolute magic. And, I'm going to start this by saying something maybe controversial on a Christmas podcast, and that is that I have absolutely no problem with anyone saying happy holidays to me. And I'll tell you why. Because it's it's twofold. It is a holiday. It's a holiday and a feast and a festival and a chance to celebrate and be together and have a tree growing out of your living room with, lights on it and more cookies than you should possibly eat. And the God that we serve, the God that created us, when Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven, he's always talking about a banquet, a wedding, a feast. We do not serve a prim and proper and prissy God. He's a man who loves a party, right?
Yes.
So to that end, we have to celebrate these holidays is so important to connect with humans and to connect with people who perhaps don't share our faith, right? And then there's the other side, and that is the Christmas part, the birth of Jesus, which is something that's much more internal for me. It's something so beautiful. It's the longing and the hope and the gift and the majesty of what happened in this tiny little room in this tiny little village 2,000 years ago. And so growing up, for me, our Christmases were big, and the house was an explosion of decorations. And Christmas morning, it was more presents than it seemed like it was more presents. We didn't actually have a lot of money, but it just seemed like everything was so abundant. And then at the same time, on Christmas Eve, my father would bring out his Bible, and he would read Luke 2 and the whole Christmas story, and we would put the star on the Christmas tree and take that quiet time to appreciate what God gave us 2,000 years ago, the gift of his son. In a few months, we'll have a different experience when we go through Good Friday and of course Easter Sunday. But this is just such a time of wonder and such a time of goodness and mercy and peace and joy. And we really owe it to the God who created us to celebrate that and to let it sink into us, that we extend our goodwill to people. Especially, this year has been hard with COVID. It's also been hard with the election. And there are people who kind of feel animosity towards each other. And this is the time to let that go, to let the bigger story take over and understand that God created all of us. He created all of us very differently. This is the God who created the duck-billed platypus and the grizzly bear and the house cat.
Yes.
He has a lot of creativity in all the different variances, and the same goes for humans. And let's appreciate and respect and give and offer goodwill to all of that. Because how can we not when we see what he's given us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
And I think that you hit a really good point right there too, because there is a lot of animosity between people right now, and I think that around this time of year, people can really get in what they call the Christmas spirit, where there really is a lot of people who have just an odd overabundance of joy around this time, and it really can be a great time for you to go to some of those people you might have animosity towards and forgive them, or to help them out in the time of need, or just simply show them love. And I think that was a really good point that you put in what you just said, that it is a time for forgiveness, because our God is the God of forgiveness and the God of mercy and the God of love. And so I think that we should, around, any time around the year, really, we should embrace those principles and moral ideals.
Absolutely, and to let things go. Some things,
Yeah.
Ultimately, we can just let them go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen.
It's a holy thing.
Yeah.
It's